You know, every single day, we live and work and connect inside these massive digital worlds. But have you ever really stopped to think about what's holding them all together? The hidden architecture? Today, we're going to pull back the curtain and look at how these platforms go from just a simple idea to a full-blown digital empire. All right, let's get into it.
And that's not just some dramatic tagline. I mean it. Because what we're talking about here isn't just a really successful business. Nope. It's a whole new kind of power structure, one that is fundamentally changing our world.
So, when you think of the classic monopolies, right, you probably picture things you can touch. Oil wells, railroads, factories. But this new breed, a monopolistic network, it's totally different. Its power doesn't come from owning stuff. It comes from orchestrating our digital lives, controlling the connections, the data, and just how much we end up depending on the whole system.
So how exactly does this new kind of monopoly even work? Let's break down the blueprint. This right here, this is the fundamental shift. The old monopolies controlled the means of production. They owned the factory. The new monopolies, it controls the means of connection. It owns the platform, the protocol, the invisible infrastructure that we all just plug into every day.
Every empire has an origin story. And for a digital one, it all hinges on one single, absolutely crucial moment, what's called the tipping point.
And that moment is when it reaches critical mass. It's this wild inflection point where a network stops being just another product you choose to use and starts becoming essential. It's like infrastructure. Before this point, the company's pushing so hard for growth. But after, the network's own value just starts pulling people in all by itself.
This idea of a structural moat is so key to understanding why being first is such a massive deal. See, early on, a platform builds up our habits, our trust. And over time, those behaviors get so ingrained that for any competitor to come along and break through, well, it's not just hard, it's like trying to storm a castle that's already been built. That early lead becomes a defensive wall.
And this isn't just about becoming number one. This is the moment the game itself completely changes. The market stops being a competitive space with lots of players, and it basically becomes a managed kingdom with one ruler. And once you cross it, there's really no going back.
So, once a network blasts past that tipping point, its growth can feel like an unstoppable engine. But what's the fuel? Let's take a look at the actual science behind this explosive expansion.
This is the secret sauce, really. It's all about network effects. Think about it. A telephone is totally useless if you're the only one who has one. But every single time a new person gets a phone, the whole network becomes way more valuable for everybody already on it. This isn't just simple addition, it's exponential.
And that creates this incredibly powerful feedback loop. It's so simple, but it's the engine of everything. The value of the platform attracts us, the users. We then generate tons of data, and that data is used to enhance the value, which, you guessed it, attracts even more users. It's a cycle that gets stronger with every single click.
And you can literally see this with something called Metcalfe's law. A network's value grows exponentially with its number of users. So look here, going from 10 to 100 users doesn't just make it 10 times more valuable, the value absolutely explodes. This is why scale is everything. It doesn't just add value, it multiplies it. Okay, so the empire has been built, and it's growing like crazy. But now, how is it defended? Let's dig into how these platforms build these invisible walls to, well, keep their citizens from leaving.
It's a fair question, right? I mean, if you're not happy with a service, you should just be able to switch to another one. Simple. Or is it? The reality, as you probably know, is a whole lot more complicated.
These are the invisible walls of the fortress. The source material calls them high switching costs. And think about how real they are. First, there's the technical side, the sheer hassle of trying to move years of your photos, your contacts, your data. Then there's the psychological wall, breaking habits you've built up over years. But maybe the biggest wall of all is the social one. Leaving means cutting yourself off from your friends, your family, your professional network.
And this all leads to what's known as ecosystem lock-in. It's when your phone, your messages, your calendar, your photos, they're all run by the same company. The platform stops being just a service you use and becomes the entire context for your digital life. At that point, leaving isn't just an inconvenience, it feels like you're emigrating.
And you have to realize this lock-in isn't an accident. It's designed. It's an architecture of control. It starts by creating their own proprietary standards. Then they make sure their systems don't talk to other systems. That's eliminating interoperability. Finally, they become the gatekeeper. deciding who gets to play in their economy and on what terms.
And this brings us to this central tension. The promise we're sold is always about efficiency, innovation, a seamless user experience, but the reality, the core logic driving the machine, is about establishing control and maintaining an information advantage.
So this brings us to the final stage in the life cycle. What happens when the battle is over, the fortress is secure, and one network has achieved total, uncontested dominance? What's life actually like on the throne?
Well, in these markets, second place might as well be last place. The dynamics are winner take all. A small head start doesn't just lead to becoming the leader, it leads to becoming the only one. In this endgame, the network isn't just competing in the market anymore. It is the market.
And once that happens, the whole business model can flip. The early days were all about value creation. You had to innovate, build the best thing to get us all to sign up. But the late phase, that can become all about value extraction, what the source calls rent-seeking. The platform doesn't have to innovate nearly as hard. It can just collect a toll for being the unavoidable middleman.
And the power that comes with that position is, well, it's immense. We're talking about the power to shape our behavior, to capture pretty much all the value that gets created on the platform, and to decide who gets in and who gets kicked out. And without any real rivals, what's the incentive to keep getting better? That can mean stagnation for us, fewer new features, maybe higher prices.
This is the ultimate destination. The platform creates its own zone of dominance, a sovereign territory with its own rules, its own economy, its own laws. It essentially becomes a kind of private government.
And that brings us to our final thought. The source material describes this whole endpoint as a fusion of market and governance. So that leaves us with a really provocative question to think about. If a company truly becomes the law of its own digital nation, what does that make us? Are we just users, or are we its citizens?